This is the Outrider Horizon 210A, but actually I want to review kind of what's possible with this platform. They have another one that's the 210L. Is that it? L?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah,
L.
For leg powered.
Yep, exactly.
Right? Okay. Well, this is Zach. Designed these things, did the updates. It's been, I don't know, a couple of years at least since I looked at the original Outrider bikes, and the Horizon was just coming out at the time. They were getting ready for the Kickstarter, which was successful. Hence the, it's some new talent, and the team's been growing a little bit. This is a really awesome platform, and I've reviewed the other versions of it. We've got the Alpha and then the Nomad, and it's sort of like the sports car high speed on road, and then the Nomad's kind of like the crossover, kind of like a Subaru WRX or an ATV kind of thing. And then the Horizon, to me, it's also very off-road capable. It's got the full suspension. It was the only one that had full suspension when we started. Now that's been migrated to the other platforms. But this one still has a larger wheel in the rear, 26 inches versus 20 inches on the other platforms. Can you tell me about that decision?
Yeah, it was mostly about gearing advantage and then tire options. We wanted a lot of knobs because that's really all you're going to do off-road.
Right. Yeah, climbing and getting, and we can see that we've got a Maxxis tire right here, the Minion, and it does have some really gnarly knobs. That's great. It gives you that traction, the climbing power. Even on the front, we've got some more Maxxis tires up there for handling. Does this have the same sort of width? I'm measuring, going to put all the specs back on the site, but getting through doors was one of the...
It's the exact same track width as all the other bikes.
There's a lot of similarities. It seems like you just improved the platform and then you've tweaked it a little bit so that you've got different models.
Exactly. So all the bikes share the same basic componentry, but it's difference in gearbox and power output, ride height, and a couple other variables that make each model specific.
Okay. And I think we were talking about motors before, how they all ship 750 watts, 20 mile per hour top speed. And for the pedal assisted ones, that's a class 2 electric bike. You can ride it around on paths and stuff where applicable. But this one actually has foot trays instead of pedals.
Yeah, we call it a foot rest.
A foot rest. Yeah. And that's for someone who may not have leg movement ability.
Right. Well, there's a couple different uses for the foot rest model, and paraplegics and quadriplegics, this is greatly applicable to them as well. But also like hunters and off-roaders, you don't necessarily have to pedal. It'll take you back into the woods. It's quiet. It's got a lot of range.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's great for hunting and fishing and that sort of back in the woods kind of stuff.
There's a lot of carrying capacity, and we were talking about this awesome custom rack. There's like a shelf up here for putting trunk bags, and then these side pannier blockers, and there's even kind of this, kind of angled clipping point. What's the total carrying capacity on that?
80 pounds.
80 pounds.
Yeah, worth of gear. So between rider and gear, up to 300 pounds carrying weight.
That's intense, man. I can see how you could go the distance. And back to the numbering and stuff. Okay, so this is like the 210. That's what I'm reviewing. I'm kind of making it up a little bit. There's a little bit of a hodgepodge going on today, and I want to communicate what's possible with these and give you some up close, some ride shots. Right. But the 2, that corresponds with the wattage of the motor, output, 16 whatever.
Right, 1650 for this one, so we round it to 2 to keep everything nice and clean.
Yep.
And then the second set of numbers, like the 210, would be a 1 kilowatt hour bike.
Yeah, 1 kilowatt hour, so that's like 1 battery pack. And then if you have 2 battery packs,
then it's 220.
220, 230, 240.
Exactly.
Okay, so the range kind of varies depending on how many battery packs you've got. Of course, the terrain, your weight, how loaded it is, but they're really pretty capable, in part because of the aerodynamic efficiency of being on a recumbent if you're on like a road condition. But this thing's really for off-road. What do you think with the 10, the single battery option?
We're looking between 30 and 45 miles of range depending on how you treat it. Yeah. It's like a normal truck. If you put the pedal down, you're not going to get great gas mileage.
We might have to treat it a little rough later and see what we're capable of, just how capable this thing is. Just riding it a little bit myself, going over some bumps. The suspension is such a huge thing for me, someone with like kind of a back and neck issue, but the seat has really been updated and refined. I think before they were just using like a standard, what was it? The bikes that you were using as a platform?
It was KMX.
The
we used them as our
KMX,
main
great
platform.
trikes, and they've got the kind of the woven seat.
The little kind of like scoop seat, which was great for kind of in corners, but we wanted to do something different this time that was kind of, our own style. And this is one of our prototype seat cushions. Our finished one is over there.
Okay.
So it's kind of rough around the edges, but we wanted to integrate the rack. We wanted to make it a lot more comfortable for long distance riding. And and add a lot of attachment points as well.
Yeah, what do you do with all these?
Well, these are for side bolsters as well, so you could have side bolsters to kind of help keep you in the seat.
Oh, like a race car where you got that kind of those like
tucked in a little bit.
That's
or
sweet.
you can run straps through these holes or add whatever you'd like. GoPro mounts, extra
water bottle cages, maybe, possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sweet. We were talking about that before, and you get like some sort of reservoir up here, maybe, or sometimes if you've got some panniers. Really cool to see the adjustability on the seat back here, so you can angle it kind of forward or back, and then there's a slider down here too. The reason I'm focusing so much on like the ergonomics on this one is because the setup can really be dialed in. We were talking about the rests, the foot rests. Not everyone has extremely good arm movement either, dexterity. So what are some of the other options?
Well, we also make a tri-pin version, so if you have limited dexterity from like a stroke or another accident, it allows you to interface with our complex hand controls with limited hand movement. So
we've got some of those back at it'd be fun to like look at those and show how they work, but essentially what's the give me the use cases. If you can pedal and you're just like a normal recumbent rider, you can get this in the pedal version. And it looks like this. Here, let's go back here.
Yeah.
Looks like this.
Minus the slump.
Okay, so it's just a single chain ring up here. Does it have the guide?
It does have the guide, yeah.
Great, so it stays on track, and we've got these the tubing and stuff, so it keeps the chain from getting you greasy and getting snagged. What was that you said it's made out of?
Oh, UHMW, ultra high molecular weight plastic.
Awesome. It's great fun to be with the engineer and get the perspective. But you can see you'd be pedaling up here. There's 6 inches of movement on that boom link, so you can dial it in for yourself, adjust the seat, get a headrest if you want to. And you can totally do that on the Horizon, and that's the off-road capable one. You get the footrests, and then, if you're someone, what the extreme, like someone who can barely move their arms? Or?
Right, yeah. So the tri-pin is a great example. All you have to have is limited elbow movement and then a little bit of wrist movement, and you can steer and drive the bike.
That's really cool.
So it opens up a lot of windows for people who've been injured or have had accidents and would like to get back out and ride bikes again. Yeah,
well, let's cut to that. I'm going to cut to that. Okay, Zach, what do we got here? What is going on with all this stuff?
This crazy looking contraption is our Outrider 210 Horizon hand cycle.
Hand cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, so still, it's so interesting. We talk about like electric bike classes and how electric bikes are classified where you're pedaling. If you're pedaling with your arms, does that count?
I think that counts.
I think that counts.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still, so yeah, this could be potentially like a class 2 setup. And this is for someone who either wants to have huge guns or just maybe you don't have the mobility in your legs.
Right, exactly. So we developed it with quads and paras in mind, but truthfully, I've been riding it and I've been getting a great workout out of it.
Oh yeah, I can tell. Oh, nice.
So it's still in early development stages. We're just about to come to market with it. So it's kind of prototypey looking at the moment.
Well, there's no schlumpf here though. Do you still have the 11 speed?
Yep, you saw the 11 speed in the back, and we're using a 32 tooth chain ring in the front to kind of give
smaller,
you, exactly, give you a little more gearing advantage. But you still have the electric assist, which is great. So from a dead stop, it's really easy to start the bike.
Right.
And then you've got all the gears to
it. It's a 15-to-1 ratio we keep talking about.
Exactly, exactly. So this has the same drive, the same ground clearance, everything else as the Horizon we looked at earlier.
Electronic shifting, brake levers. That's so cool, man. Props to Shimano for, and then this one, it has more of a trigger throttle right there.
Yeah, the thumb throttle.
And wait, this side has shifters too.
They do, but that side doesn't do anything.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just for brifters, or just so that we can have that brifter lever on there.
If you, let's say someone has more dexterity on their left side, could you switch which one's active?
We can set it up either way, which is great. And actually, I forgot to mention, our Horizon and our Alphas, we can actually do single-sided hand controls. So we can move everything to one side.
Wow.
So if you've had a stroke or something like that, we can condense all the controls.
That is so cool. Man, everyone, who wants to get out there and ride, it's awesome to have that possibility with you guys. So I see this strut supporting it. The whole thing probably angles up and telescopes in and out.
Yeah, so you can adjust
and impales you if you crash. Is that where the straps come in? Is that a feature? Or?
Yeah, we actually use a company called Body Point. We use a lot of straps for them, and so for somebody who's quad or para, we'd recommend the chest strap. And that kind of helps keep you in the bike. And then
this generation doesn't come with airbags, no?
No airbags quite yet.
Yeah, well, we're talking 20-mile-per-hour speeds a lot of time, or up to 25. So it's not fun, but this isn't a car, so
right. It wouldn't injure you too badly if you were in a wreck.
Okay.
And the way we've got it set up, you can adjust how far and how high up on your chest the hand cycle is, so you can adjust it for optimum stroke.
Interesting. One other question. I go to the gym. You wouldn't know it, but I go and I work and I sweat. And the workout machines, they let you pedal forward and backwards. Can that be flipped around?
No, this one can't.
Oh,
unfortunately.
Okay, good to know. So you pedal forward. That's probably the case on most hand cycle bikes, right?
It really is,
okay.
yeah. But actually, one thing I want to mention: this is the first shaft-driven hand cycle. Most hand cycles are chain-driven.
What?
So you pedal and then you take your hands down to the steering.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one we decided to condense all the features into one interface.
Huh.
So all the steering, all the pedaling, everything happens up top.
Can you turn it? Show me how that works.
So how this works is you'll turn this upper.
Whoa.
And that's what does the steering. So it's a limited range, but it translates directly to wheel movement down below.
That is rad. Oh my gosh. Like that, I can't even believe that. And can you adjust these so that you have them out of sync, or do they have to always be?
You can set them so you're asynchronous, or you can
asynchronous
set
JavaScript.
Yes,
love it.
Or you can set it up so you're synchronous.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so this is for the person who wants to use their arms. What if you don't have foot movement, leg movement, you don't have great upper body movement either?
Right. Well, you could either do the one that we reviewed earlier, the 210A, which is just vertical hand controls, or if you have reduced dexterity, we've also developed a tri-pin steering. So this is if you have, like, let's say you've had a stroke and you don't have great motor control, or multiple sclerosis or ALS.
Yeah.
So this is a very gross motor control interface where we can do braking and throttle all through these large hand movements. So that, if you've had a stroke or something like that, you'll still be able to control the bike reliably.
I don't want to tease people who already have challenges, but if you can't move most of your body, maybe you've been riding a little bit too hard. I don't know what the situation is. You were talking about these, some of these, diseases and really sad situations, but I'm always like emphasizing safety, and it's just kind of fun to tease about what these are capable of. You were talking about rolling it and all that.
Yeah, actually, some of the people who ride them the hardest are disabled folks. Like, I've seen people do things on these bikes that I never would have done.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's great is like their expression and like the rejuvenation they get from being able to get back out and ride again. And
I've got to say, that's the thing about it. Like, that's your outlet. There are so few outlets when you, the majority of people are catered to by Walmart, and you got like product A, B, and C. And then the fringe, it's like the long end of the tail. What do you do? And this really gives you total freedom.
Right.
It really gets you out there. I love that. But yeah, I can imagine someone's got like a traditional pedal power electric bike, and you're like, yeah, and they crash, and you're like, my legs. And then they're like, what next? They go to this, they crash again. Eventually, you might run out of options, but you've got almost every base covered.
Pretty much everything covered, and we're working on some more extreme options as well. Like
really?
Joystick steering, and sip and blow steering is another.
What is sip and blow steering?
So sip and blow is like
sip and blow.
Sip and blow. It's a straw that you keep in your mouth.
Provocative.
Exactly. Yes. That allows you to accelerate and decelerate and steer the bike with just mouth movements.
Wow.
And that's still a little ways out, but it's definitely on our radar.
I noticed you guys, a lot of you are using full face helmets and stuff. Do you recommend that, or what's that all about?
I like a full face helmet just because it's another level of protection. It's not really that uncomfortable, and at speeds of 25 miles an hour, that's kind of close to what normal bike manufacturers make helmets for.
Is that your significant other making you, hey, you guys, can you come over here and introduce yourselves real quick? These are some of the other Outrider crew members. This is their van. You guys came all the way from Fletcher, North Carolina. Can you just introduce yourselves and say what you're doing, what your roles are? Corey. What's up, dude?
I'm doing video for the No Barrier Summit trip.
Sweet, man. Woo! Okay.
I'm Nikki, and I do the marketing and events and social media.
Okay, very good. You've been a real big help with me. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, and Sarah.
I'm Sarah. I'm here to help support for the No Barrier Summit and just kind of keep Zach sane.
And we were like, so you wear the full face helmet. Does Sarah have anything to do with that? Is that some sort of a restriction?
A little bit. I'm not allowed to tell her how fast they'll go.
No.
That's kind of part of the arrangement.
He's not supposed to tell me when he has accidents.
Well, awesome. You guys have all been wonderful. I appreciate it. And thanks for, giving me the little demo. Hopefully some people will see this that might have thought they didn't have an option, and they'll get out there and have some fun. Let's get back out there. Let's get on the trail and ride this thing. So that's all really cool. It's neat to see the different, hardware options that empower people. I'm not aware of too many other bicycles or electric bikes that empower people that way. And frankly, the bicycle is the limitation if you can't move your legs or if you have limited arm movement. So
exactly. Well, that's what's great about the recumbent platform is it's super stable. Even if you don't have good balance, you don't have to worry about that element. So it leaves you free to just drive and steer the bike and enjoy your ride. And so when we redesigned the new bike, we wanted to incorporate a lot of those adaptive elements as well as able body elements.
So it's quiet, it's efficient, but it is expensive. I think the starting price point on this one's like $13,000.
Yeah, right in that neighborhood.
Right, and then it can climb up to like $22,000, $23,000, depending on all the options and features that you want to go for. If you're someone who has limited mobility, though, you know, this is, again, it's one of your few options to kind of have fun versus like a little rascal scooter. Nothing against those. I like those things. But, I mean, you can't take that off-road like we're doing here and getting out into nature like this or hunting.
It opens up a lot more doors. And in the realm of adaptive equipment, it's pretty affordable compared to the other options out there. There's track chairs and big, you know, battery-powered, essentially tanks that you can take out into the woods. And so this is kind of...
This doesn't destroy the trail.
Exactly. And it's super lightweight. It weighs 105 pounds with one
This
pack.
is the lightest one. Yeah, we were talking about the other ones like 110, 120-ish.
Right. Yeah, by the time you get the 2 packs that you need to run the motor.
The battery is the big deal.
Exactly.
It's lithium-ion battery. How much are the additional batteries?
They're $1,200 if you buy them at the time of when you buy the bike.
Okay, and then you install them and everything like that.
Exactly.
So one of the challenges, though, is maybe you can afford it. Maybe you're into this and you've got a place to ride it and everything. I guess there are certain classes or exclusions if you are someone who's limited mobility.
Right.
How does that work? Like, because this is sort of like not in a class. If you don't have pedals, it's not an electric bike.
Exactly. And so what's great about the way legislation has been going lately is there's a lot of exceptions made for mobility devices.
Yeah.
So most public trails and roads will allow these electric assist bikes, or this is essentially not a bike. It's essentially a mobility device. And so it opens up a lot of windows for where you can ride it.
Okay. Yeah. That's good to know. And then the last piece is getting it to the trail. Like this thing is not going to fit in a normal bike rack, a hitch rack. If you're already limited mobility, how are you going to lift this? What do people do? I'm curious. How do people move this thing around?
Well, I have a nice rollback 4x8 trailer that I pull behind my Subaru, and I can get 2 of them on there real nicely.
Is that the little tiny one you can get at like hardware supply or whatever?
And it's got a little fold down gate. You can just
it ramps it up. That's brilliant. I mean, those are like $500 if not less.
Exactly. And so it's great because you can tow that with any car. You can take it with you when you go.
Okay.
And it's also useful for other things in your life.
Well, that is sweet. Safety is another area that I really care about, and I love that you've got like a little fender back here, and that you talked about the belts and stuff like that. Really good disc brakes. On this one, you were talking about how, we've got 180 millimeter rotors, and they're sort of like mechanical hydraulic mix. Can you explain that?
Yeah, these are TRP cable actuated hydraulic brakes. And what's great about that is you get the low maintenance of a cable brake, but you get the gripping and stopping power of a hydraulic brake. So they require a lot less maintenance, but you still get all the stopping force that you need.
Okay.
And so they're very easy to care for and very easy to use.
What's this little red thing right there?
So that adjusts the throw of the brake. So you can either have it give you a lot of force or you can have a very little throw. And so it's just kind of a dial and adjustment. Most people won't use that. That'll come preset from us.
It's kind of neat. You got some Avid levers. On the other one, there was a lot of Shimano equipment. So there's little differences. You still got the Cycle Analyst V3 up here. And we talked about no slump drive up there. That's if you get the pedal version. This one doesn't have any gears set up on it, but the pedal version, the 210L for leg, that one would have the internally geared set 11-speed
Shimano Alpine hub system.
Yeah, and you can shift that at standstill. So
exactly.
It's a huge deal if you come to an abrupt, unexpected stop and you need to shift down for pedaling. Yeah. So that's huge. The light, this is an optional accessory, right? It's like 1,000 watt, 1,000 lumen. Gosh,
every time.
1,000 lumen LED light. Is that?
And so it's quite bright, so you can ride trails at night without a problem, and it's very comfortable.
Okay, and we were, let's see, what was the other?
Oh, the accessory package was one of the things.
Yeah, the accessory package is really cool because then you can actually charge things off of the bike and sort of use this big battery for more than just riding. It could be like your backup power.
Yeah, exactly. You can have access to the batteries inside of it, so you can supply up to 20 amps at 48 volts. So you can you could run inverters, you could run they actually have 48 volt chainsaws. So
really?
You can run a chainsaw off the bike.
Yeah, I can't fit through this section of trail. Just
clearing it up.
Clearing if you're a logger, this will be fun. Lots of fun.
That also gives you access to 20 amps at 12 volts, so you can run any automotive accessories that you would normally carry with you in your car.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. Okay. What happens if you roll this thing? I mean, I got to ask, you're going up like a little bump or something, you turn too hard. Have you rolled it personally?
I've definitely rolled it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You look okay, mostly. Things are good.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we've put it through a lot of really hardcore testing in the last year to make sure that everything's going to hold up. So we've rolled it probably 10 or 12 times intentionally.
Wow.
And really the only thing that we've seen go are the mirrors, which are a $6 item.
Okay.
So really not that big of a deal to replace.
Another nice safety accessory here. We got the mirrors on the sides. Yeah, this seems like it would kind of protect you too. I mean, I don't know if you actually flip it. From what I've seen, they just kind of tip on their sides.
Right, and it's normally, the only time we have rollovers is in a low speed, high off camber situation. So as long as you avoid those, you're normally okay.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And then the tail whip. This is like the key accessory. So here's the key. We turn on the bike, and you hear like a little humming kind of going on, and then we see this really bright white LEDs. Comes in different colors if you want them. Pay a little bit extra for that. Very nice. This is huge, especially because you're riding lower, and if you end up going through some traffic or something, you want to be visible. So back here we've got a belt drive. We've talked about this a little bit on the other ones, but it's a carbon belt drive, so it's going to stay the same length. It's not going to stretch too much, but you do have this little adjuster down here, so you can kind of dial it back and give yourself a little more distance and kind of stretch it out. Keep it going. There's this little tool that's built right into the bike with these thumb screws, so you can take that off and you can kind of adjust if you needed to change the tire or something on the go.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. And then the control box right here. Can you say what these different knobs do again?
Right. So these are all the outputs from our electrical system to the outside of the bike. So the power for the whip, the speed sensor, the temperature sensor, and the motor, and then we have our main connections to our cycle analyst up front, and a couple other like DI2 hookups and that sort of stuff. So,
and this is all pretty custom. We've mentioned this before, where there's this German company that does sort of the step down, and this one has like a 15-to-1 conversion, whereas the Nomad had like a 9-to-1, and then the Alpha has just a 5-to-1. So you're not getting as much power with the Alpha, but I guess you're starting with the same kind of motor, but you're just using that power in a different way.
Exactly.
High speed with the Alpha, high torque with the Horizon.
Right.
For that climbing. And some of it, I've got to say, from the engineering perspective, this compared to the Nomad, maybe there's not quite as huge as the gap there in power. This is a larger wheel, so your mechanical advantage is being lost a little bit to the 20-inch, but you're getting that tire advantage.
Exactly. So we get a lot more like aggressive tire tread options in this larger size, and a bigger contact patch to put that to
That is so true. Bigger contact patch, you're going to span those cracks a little bit easier. It might even be a little bit more comfortable with the bigger tire.
I think so too. Yeah, it'll eat up a little bit. The full suspension in the back takes care of the big stuff, but the little stuff gets eaten up by the tire itself.
And we've talked about RockShox Monarch on all of these with adjustability in there, so you can adjust what was it, a little bit of rebound and stiffness?
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to soften it up for some big crazy off-road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah. Or if you want to stiffen it so that you glide nicely around corners and that kind of stuff, so you can kind of dial it in for what you're using it for.
Talked even about a sway bar up front. I might jump back to that in a second, but yeah, I'm curious. This is just like a personal question. So if you pump this tire up, the volume of air is going to be higher because it's 26-inch versus 20. But if the PSI that you pumped it to, let's say it's like 50 PSI. If a smaller tire and a bigger tire both at 50 PSI, is the bigger tire going to feel softer because you have more air to compact, or has it already been compacted because the PSI is at 50?
You're going to have that pressure is the same, but you have more volume in which you can compress.
Okay.
So you'll get a softer, even if they're both running at the
same
pressure.
PSI. Thank you. I've wondered that. I've been like, I wonder what happens. It's awesome to hang with the experts and get all the feedback. So let's come up here. Will you name all the parts for me again? These are all chromoly steel. Most of this bike is aluminum alloy, but that's for stiffness.
Right. So both our upper control arm and our lower control arm and our uprights, that's all 4130 chromoly. And then we have 6061. All of our CNC components are 6061 aluminum. Okay. So our sway bar talons and our steering cam.
Talons?
Talons. Right, so the sway bar is to help keep the bike level in those hard cornering situations, but still allow the suspension to flex independently of each other, so that you can eat bumps up on one side and not kind of tilt the whole bike to one angle. And then we're going through a steering reduction. If you look from the tie rods to the steering cam and then back out to the handlebars, we actually have an advantage over the steering. So steering is very light and very easy.
So yeah, it's like back in the day when you had like really push hard on your brake or something. I think over time they had mechanical advantages, and now they also have like pneumatic and stuff.
Exactly.
In this case, it's all mechanical, but you're saying that the leverage up here to turn, you're getting mechanical advantage.
Exactly. It's much greater. And what's also great is that you don't get all that feedback from the road. You still feel connected, but every time you hit a bump, It's not going to move the handlebars.
It's sort of dispersed across those different joints.
Exactly, all those linkages and everything.
That's a really good point. I noticed it wasn't really jerking me around too much, and if you're riding for a long ways, you got that huge battery in there. You don't want to get beat up. I mean, I don't, at least.
Right. So it's very easy to drive.
Can you tell me I love these.
Yeah. So these are the rotor burn guards. So let's say you come down a big hill really quickly and you get hard on the brakes and you hop right up. Those rotors are going to be super hot. Yeah. And you don't want your calf or anything to touch those. So we put these rotor burn guards in place to keep your calf safe.
That's sweet. Yeah, brass nipples here on the spokes. I think I measured it's like 14 gauge up front, and there's just 2 brakes, one per each wheel. Have you ever braked on one side and tried to spin it or done anything?
Yeah, well, actually, that's what's great about having 2 is so like if you're coming hard into a corner, you can bias brake, and that'll help the bike turn faster than the steering alone.
So you brake on the inner brake, and that kind of turns you.
Exactly, yeah, and so you can use that to your advantage. And then if you're feeling kind of hooliganish, you can lock up one, get on throttle, and you can actually spin the bike in place.
Wow.
Without having to get off of it.
Is that like, what's that, like burnouts? Like
pretty much, yeah. I was trying to find a tactful way to say burnouts.
Yeah, wow, okay. Well, burn out responsibly, people. We don't want to mess up trails.
Right only.
What's the other, I'm pretending that this would be like the Horizon. It's not. This is the Nomad, and the biggest difference is like the wheel in the back is not 26 inches. There's just so many more options for people with the limited mobility on the Horizon. But what else do you see that's a difference between the models?
The big difference between the Horizon and the Alpha and the Nomad is ride height. So the Horizon, we have 6 inches of ground clearance.
Let's go check that out.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, sweet. This is great. And you got those skid plates on the bottom.
Yeah, and a big heavy-duty bash guard. So if you come up to something that's a little too tall for the ground clearance, you're not going to damage the bike. It's just going to plow right through it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
The skid rails to absorb any rocks or anything like that, as long as you slide across the top.
Keep your frame in decent shape.
Exactly.
I also noticed that this one doesn't have the active cooling with the fan. Is that because this is a prototype, or is that the case?
No, that's the real case. And what that is we're using a motor that's more suited to lower wattage, so we don't have as much heat loss. So it's still very efficient. We're not pushing it very hard. So we don't have a lot of waste heat that we have to get rid of.
I wonder if that means that you don't use as much electricity. I mean, I'm not sure how much that fan draws, but that's a little bit.
It's very minimal. That draws about 5 watts at 12 volts, so it's kind of insignificant. But we're running the motor a lot gentler. Let me rephrase that.
More gently.
More gently.
Yes.
So we're running the motor at a lower output wattage, and so we don't have a lot of waste heat. The motor's pretty happy, and you can run it all day long. We get about 25 watt hours per mile on the Horizon, which is pretty good. And that's with full throttle output.
Man, that's sweet. Yeah, I love. And this one, by the way, guys, this hasn't been painted. Okay, the rack, it would have this sort of like matte black, and this what is it, gray?
For the Horizon is wrinkle black is our
wrinkle black. So the whole thing is wrinkle black.
Yep.
Looks like this.
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 other color options as well that are at no cost.
And that's just the battery box area.
That's just essentially what you see that is silver here will be what you get painted as a custom color.
Okay. Hey, what's going on over here with all these things?
So this is our optional accessory package.
Oh, that's the thing that we're talking about.
Exactly. So on-off switch, pretty straightforward. Here's the 12 volt out, and we provide a cord for that. 48 volt out, and then back here we have a 4.8
USB. Oh yeah.
Yeah, 4.8 amp USB output. So you can charge tablets. You can do all kinds of stuff with all that high power.
Send photos to your friends. Look what I did. Awesome.
We've got a guy who runs a Wi-Fi hotspot off of it. So he's
really,
in Wi-Fi
dude,
coverage.
This is the Burning Man bike right here. I keep calling. It's to me that's like a great space because you can. The whole point is to make awesome vehicles, and there's no laws about, whatever. And so you get something like this out there, and you can just use it like a little party platform. Man, put some speakers on this. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, we've got a guy who's done speakers. He's got an air horn on it. He's got lights underneath it.
Really? He's got like what are those called?
Like ground effects.
Ground effects. Love it.
He's decked it out.
It's like all right out. Love it. Yeah. Okay. Any other highlights that you want to call out? You're the engineer, this thing top to bottom, and that's why I've been really relying on you to get some specs for it.
Well, really the whole purpose of the Horizon is to be high performance off-road. And so it's very stable. It's really good at doing downhill, really aggressive downhill. We'll try to do some of that later.
Oh yeah.
And I'll kind of show
I'm gonna hold you to that.
All right.
Yeah.
And then truthfully, it'll pretty much go anywhere that you point it. Traction is really the big limiting factor, not power output.
Okay, wow. I think maybe we should walk through charging real quick. Yep. There are 2 of these little covers, one on that side, one on this side. They're the same size. You take it off, and there's like a NEMA plug. It looks just like on a computer. So all you have to do is carry around a plug, which is super light. The charging, I don't know, with a power supply type
yeah,
thing?
this is a charging power supply. It's 1,000 watts nominal output.
Super fast.
Right.
So if you get the single battery version of this, how long does it take to charge?
About 50 minutes.
About 50 minutes, man.
Yeah.
So in 1 hour, you got 30 plus miles.
Exactly. You're back up
Dude,
again.
yes,
Yeah.
that's awesome. But that quick charging, that creates heat, and that's why we have 2 of these covers, one on the right, one on the left. This is like a heat escape, and it's got like a smart switch in there, so if the lid's on, it won't charge. I think that's awesome. The key can be taken off the bike, so if you park this, like no one's going to be able to just like walk off with that unless they're really strong and they got a truck or something. So that's a good security measure. Of course, you can always put a lock through the frame or something. Go ahead and turn it to the on position. We can see Psychoanalyst version 3 up here. This is backlit, adjustable angle, which is really cool. Shout out to Justin at Grin, who makes these. They do a great job. Grin Technologies. They also run Endless Sphere, so a lot of people who are into high power stuff like this and DIY might go to Endless Sphere. You know, and that's the thing. People do make their own products like this, but so much of this is custom, and it comes with, you're saying, like a 2-year limited warranty.
Yeah, everything but consumables.
Wow. And that's awesome. That's something, you know, you pay for all the designing, the engineering, and the warranty that you guys offer. And how long have you been in business?
We've been in business since 2009.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of improvements. We had
7-ish years.
Yeah,
Am I doing my math right? Yeah.
What's great though is we engineered this old series, the 422 Alpha, which we're known for. When we came to do this new bike, this new aluminum enclosure, full suspension bike, we had this great technology stack to stand on.
Yeah.
So we just migrated all that technology, improved it, and then brought it into this bike.
Love it.
And so we've got a lot more features, a lot more power output than our old bikes. And it kind of brings it into kind of a new territory.
Well, you walk me through the display again real quick,
Yeah.
some of the readouts here. So, you know, we can see our voltage, 47.9. Does that mean we're mostly charged? Or
Yeah, we're still mostly charged after we've been riding for a little while.
Wow.
Yep, 0.0 miles an hour.
Standing still?
Yep, no power output at the moment. We're capable of 1.65 kilowatts of power output.
Wow.
And then if we watch it cycle around, we can see the motor temperature.
31.5 degrees Celsius, 3.86 miles. Is that our trip meter?
Yeah, so since the last time I've reset the CA, we've done 3.6 or 3.86. And what's great is Justin over at Grin has put this program in where we can watch the motor temperature, and if we get into a dangerous zone, we can roll back power. So it kind of self-protects, you know, so you don't wind up burning out the motor if you get a little too crazy with it. But
Well, and on that note, we've also got some really cool sort of like this electronic gearbox that you're talking about, and it changes the flow of electricity and how it's being used. I'm trying to use the right language here.
Well, we call it our Delta Y system, and it essentially is a 2-speed electronic gearbox where we can choose either high torque output or high RPM output. So if you're climbing a big hill, you put it down in low range, it'll give you lots of
And
torque
that's
to
the
climb.
default.
Exactly.
So you hop on this thing, you press the red button,
to arm the bike.
it arms, and you see that turns blue. That means it's serious. And then you start riding, and that's the first, like,
First gear, yeah.
First gear.
Right.
And then you press the blue button once you're up to speed, and that turns green. That's the second gear. And there's a little bit of a delay in that. I noticed we were riding, and it was like, and then it comes back.
It's kind of like a manual gear shift, essentially. So we disconnect the motor, do our magic, and then bring it back up again.
Perfect.
So there's actually a 0.5 second delay in the gear change.
Wow.
But it's very responsive, and what's great is that you can apply that power the best way you need it. So if you need speed, you can put it towards speed, or you can put it towards torque if you're going to climb a big hill, or
Sweet.
get started from the stop.
Well, let's get out there. I'm excited to hop on this. I'm going to just ride it for a few minutes up and down and, you know, do some different shots. But I really appreciate your input.
Yeah.
Dude, it's awesome. I love what you've done. And it's just so unique in the world of bikes. So I'm going to hop on this thing. We're doing good here. Kind of step to one side and then over. Put your hand down on tire like that. Give you some stability. Put your feet up here. Again, I'm fake reviewing like the one with pedals because that's kind of stock. It's an electric bicycle. These other ones, they're sort of classified a little bit differently, but they're all the same platform, the Horizon platform. I wanted to keep this all grouped together, so that's why we're doing it this way. There's the twist throttle. There's the brakes. This is a grass right here. There we go. And we just twist it. So I'm gonna ramp it up. You can hear it. Pretty sweet, and definitely a lot of power. You don't have to go fast. Like right now, I'm just barely twisting it. You know, it's having no problem, kind of cutting through the weeds a little bit. Feels really good. And you know, it is a little bit bumpy. You can hear some stuff. This is their kind of demo model. It's been bounced around a little bit. But once you get up to speed, those shocks, they definitely smooth out the ride. By the way, these are not the rock shocks that will come on like the final build. This is just for their prototype. So yeah, that's very cool. Let's do it again. Here's the on-road performance. So now I'm gonna hit that switch, the blue switch, turns green, and I get even higher RPM. Oh yeah. Now, one of the trade-offs with any of these bikes is that it has a limited turning radius. I've kind of experienced that. You really gotta kind of start wide, and then even when you do that, you know, you might have to push yourself back like I'm doing right here and do a couple point turn. Oh yeah, oh boy. Oh, and this might be the roll. So you can see pretty stable, even coming down this bank right here accidentally. One of the other things I noticed is like as you're pedaling this thing, there's a little bit of chain drag because there's friction going all the way under you back there. And if you look at your feet, like when they pass this plastic thing, if they're inverted like mine tend to be sometimes, you can occasionally kind of catch it on the way up. I think I would really opt for like the click-in pedal types, but otherwise, I mean, it's really elegant. It's a nice thing, and again, the clip-ins are going to keep you from setting your feet down and, you know, dragging them or potentially getting them caught. But that's true of really any recumbent bike, so it's just worth considering. Okay, Zach, you gonna do some riding?
Let's do it.
Love to see what this thing looks like third person. It's that low speed. Tail whip's going wild. Cool. Nice ride, man. Thank you so much for all the extra help and the riding. For the full write-up on the Horizon, some of the other Outriders, including the really old ones, in case you want to compare and contrast some of the details and see their headquarters in Fletcher, North Carolina. I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com, and of course, OutriderUSA.com, Outrider USA on YouTube. You guys, you're getting ready to go to like an adaptive cycle fest or something, right?
Yeah, we're going to the No Barriers Fest, which is like all about like adaptive equipment and like adaptive challenges. And so we're bringing a lot of our new features for people to try out, kind of tell us, you know, what we did wrong so we can kind of improve it and then kind of show what we've already accomplished.
And you're selling a few. Some of these are like sold units back at the truck.
We have 58 pre-orders already that we're working on fulfilling. And yeah, we've been shipping. We're at unit 21 at the moment.
If someone wants to go to that Adaptive Ride Fest, like how frequently is that and where do they do it?
It's twice a year and it kind of varies in location. The big one is the No Barriers Summit, which we're at, which is in Colorado this year.
Cool.
And I think it'll be in Colorado next year as well. But if you just Google No Barriers, you'll find it.
No Barriers. Okay, sweet. Thanks, man.
Excellent, Court. See you next time.
Later.